Okay, so tonight we're going to make roasted red potatoes with a little bit of rosemary seasoning on them. It is super simple, quick, and very delicious. First thing you're going to want to do is preheat your oven to 450 degrees. We're going to wash and dry our potatoes, and then we're going to get our pan ready. So I'm just going to set those guys up there. So you're going to want to take your baking pan and you're going to add some olive oil. And you want to make sure that you use a good quality olive oil, extra virgin, and you want to make sure that it's all natural, cold pressed. This olive oil is the olive oil that I use. I love it. It's got a lot of flavor. It really cooks well and brings out the natural flavors of the foods. But just, try a few until you find what you like, but make sure that you do get an extra extra virgin olive oil that's cold pressed. So we're going to add a good 2 tablespoons of that to our pan. We're making red potatoes, and they're naturally notorious for sticking to the pan. So we want to make sure that there's a good solid coating on the bottom of that pan so that the potatoes have something between them and the pan to actually stick to. So I'm just going to set this over to the side, and we're going to go ahead and chop these potatoes. Now, when you're new to cooking, knives can seem a little, I don't know, but really what you want is a good quality set of knives that are very comfortable in your hand, and you want to make sure that you keep them super sharp, because if you don't, you're more likely to cut yourself, which doesn't really make sense because you think, oh, well, the knife is duller, the blade's not quite as sharp, it'd be harder to cut myself. But it actually is easier because you have to work so much harder to use the knife, so you're more likely to slip or slice a finger. And nobody wants that. So we're just going to put the potatoes down on our cutting board. And this recipe is actually very versatile. You can use it with a wide variety of vegetables. Sometimes I'll use zucchini, sometimes I'll use broccoli. Red potatoes is, kind of my favorite, especially when we're combining it with something like a salmon loaf. So you want to make sure that whatever vegetable you're using, cut it according to how quickly it's going to cook. So with a red potato, potatoes take a little longer to cook through. So we're going to want to make sure that we cut the slices evenly and pretty, thin. Probably I'd say about 1/4 of an inch thick, no thicker. And if we were doing broccoli, we would want to leave our chunks a little, larger, so that the stem has the time to cook through. If we were doing zucchini, you'd probably want to do a 1/2 inch slice, because zucchini actually cooks very quickly. So you don't want to cut it so thin that you end up burning it, because nobody likes a burnt meal for dinner. So we're going to take the potatoes and we're going to go ahead and slice them up. And I like to give mine just a quick once over to make sure that there are no bad spots or blemishes or anything like that. And this guy's actually got a little bit of a broken stubbed area here, so we're going to go ahead and slice that part off. And you see he's fine underneath. So then we're just going to go ahead and do our slices. And like I said, you want to aim for about 1/4 of an inch. And then I like to just go ahead and slice mine again into quarters so that they will cook nice and quickly, especially when I'm making this on a busy weeknight. I don't want to spend a lot of time on dinner. I want to get it on the table as soon as possible, get it cleaned up so that I can go ahead and get on with my night. So let me just get this other guy here. And you just want to gently slice, holding the other end of the potato with your fingers, but you'll see how I'm keeping my fingers kind of back there where the knife's going to go through, because you want to make sure that you've always got your fingers in the clear. And if you have a little bit of a thinner slice like this, you can just go ahead and cut that in half and he'll cook at the same rate as the other guys. What you don't want to do is have a bunch of different sized pieces that are going to cook at different rates, because then you'll have one that's burnt and one that's raw. So it's very important to kind of take your time, go slowly, make sure that you're cutting things evenly and carefully. No cut fingers here. And then you can get your sizes pretty consistent throughout. It takes a little bit of a time to practice, but the more you cook, the more you prepare food, the more comfortable you'll get with getting things cut into the same size. Now I'm just going to grab our pan, and like I said, potatoes take a lot of oil, and we don't actually ingest all of this oil. We are going to put these on a paper towel when we're done to help absorb some of that oil back out, but we want to make sure that our potatoes are not sticking to the pan. It's why we have put this layer down to start with. I'm going to add a little bit more, just kind of over the potatoes, so that there's plenty in there, probably another half tablespoon. And then we're going to season our potatoes up. We're going to toss them and we're going to throw them in the oven. Now I like to use a little black pepper, which I've got in a grinder here. So I'm just going to grind that up. Now if you've never had fresh ground black pepper, it is worth investing in these fancy little grinder things, because it makes so much stronger of a pepper presence within your dish. You don't have to use quite as much. It's just a fresher, more vibrant flavor. Now I use sea salt just because it's better for you. It's got more flavor to it. You can use less than you would with regular table salt, but I have it in this handy little container, and it's sea salt. It's just not in the sea salt container because I get it in bulk. So save a little money, save some packaging, all that good stuff. Now you're just going to take, and potatoes need a lot of salt to bring out their flavor. So that's about a teaspoon of salt there for these 2 red potatoes that we did. And just kind of apply it liberally. They won't come out too salty, I promise. Potatoes do suck up some salt. And then this is what I think makes this dish a rock star. It's crushed rosemary, and you can use fresh rosemary too, but I find that the crushed rosemary, when I'm making a roasted vegetable, actually works better and is more flavorful, so that's what I use. And we're going to add about a teaspoon of this crushed rosemary, and then you just kind of sprinkle it on top of your oil and potatoes. Okay, and then once we've got all that together, I'm going to pull in a handy dandy spatula here. We're actually going to toss these potatoes within this oil mixture so that we can get them nice and coated on all sides, because that is actually what helps our potatoes brown up in the oven so that they get nice and golden and very well roasted. It mixes all of our herbs and seasonings in. And then you can see that there's a significant amount of oil in this pan, and I promise that it's not all cooking into these potatoes. What you do want to make sure of, though, before you throw it in the oven, is that everything is in a single layer and it's laid down on your pan. And then we're just going to set this to the side. And if you look right there, you've got some beautiful red potatoes all ready to go into the oven. So I'm just going to slide over and throw these in. Okay, so our potatoes have been going in a 425 degree oven for about 15 minutes now, and I'm going to go ahead and pull them out. Now, as you can see, very little of the oil has cooked into our potatoes, but we've got a nice golden brown dish going. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer these to a plate lined with some paper towels and let them kind of de-oil a little bit, and then we'll be ready to serve.